French drain installation part 1. So like every other project I've started, I didn't get good before pictures or video or anything, any documentation. So it's not really part 1. There's been a few stages happened here already. This is the gate from the churchyard to the church pasture or whatever that we've rented for 20 years. And this corner was a mess. The whole property was a mess, of course, but this particular corner was a mess. You know, as humans tend to pile junk up, so around the shed was bricks and metal and just crap. Fence was in disrepair, gate doesn't really work, and it was overgrown with weeds, with that bloodroot. And some nice acacia I saved, some of them were coming up there naturally. And was a steep drop off. You know, nothing really is level here, of course, but it was like a sharp cut, right? Say the last meter or so of the property just kind of dropped off really quickly. So what I did was I ran the pig up here. His cage is 2.5 meters wide, so I did 2.5 meters against the fence. That'll be all trees, planted the trees, overstory, and then we'll grow forage beets, sugar beets maybe, kale, arugula, that sort of stuff to feed the chickens as well in that 2.5 meter strip. But the main deal is to plant a paulownia at every tree and get morning shade for the pasture, and then we'll run a row of paulownias on this edge of the corn patch to give it afternoon shade. And these little trees, existing trees, will slowly become obsolete. This little row here, you know, it's not going to kill us to keep this row. Can be good trees. The last tree is a crab apple or something, but you could graft good trees into it just to save. Say, take this guy and save him and put him on that, whatever. So I'll actually do compost, not compost. I don't compost. Such a silly concept. You're just gonna throw stuff there, manure, veggie scraps, grass. Let it sit there, and then when the chickens come through here to pasture, they paw through it and they eat the earthworms. And you know, it's like my islands of fertility concept. Here's one. We're working on this field. It too was a mess. It was covered in ants. The whole thing was a giant ant hill. The chickens made substantial decrease of that. And you know, no desirable grasses really at all. This is one of my problems right now. I don't have enough grass. But you do what you can. So we use, you know, this tree may be cut out in 3 to 5 years, or 2 years, 7 years. We don't know yet. It's going to go eventually. But in the meantime, we make a little island of fertility around it. Help it grow as best it can. It produces stuff to chop and drop. It does produce apples. And it just goes out from there. The chickens come along, they scratch it all out, and then I just rake it back in and throw some more stuff on top. It sits for 2 months or 6 weeks. The chickens come back, scratch through it. It's already substantially changed the soil underneath. So each one of those trees is a little island of fertility, and they just kind of seep out and feed the pasture around it. And slowly over time, the whole thing will be wonderful. But anyway, back to the French drain. So the pig did the initial plowing here. He busted this up again. I am short of grass, but I made the decision to turn this to dirt, knowing that I wanted to get it covered with, you know, 6 inches of manure and cardboard by now, but I haven't had. 3 factors have affected that. I kind of used up all the manure that I have. Guy has 60 horses, and I kind of ran out. You know, he's just catching up a little bit every week. I could go and get it, but now it's so wet that I I would get stuck going to get it, and I rip up the pasture here, bringing it to here, and time, of course, always time is of the essence. So yeah, so there's this underground tank here. It's a huge structure. I don't know if it's actually even working anymore. It may be disconnected. So we will, that's a resource we got for free with the rental of this property. We will develop that. I'll build a little, just a little box to keep the wood chip. I'll just chip the cement part. You could change a motor or something. You know, it's a nice cement, solid cement, flat surface to work off of. You could build a stove there or something. Make use of it that way. But there's a huge underground tank underneath here. Goes to there, and there's another manhole cover up there. It's all connected. But anyway, so we'll just use that. We'll terrace it right there at that end because of the slope this way. But my biggest problem was the slope this way at the end. So I slowly filled that in with scraps and stuff, and kind of took a shovel last time the chickens were here, and you know, I would dig, and they would dig through, and they get the worms, right? They're probably gonna die anyway, or you know, be substantially reduced by digging, and especially this time of year. So I just kind of give it a pre-level, and you know, I threw a veggie scraps where there's a dip or a hole, and we'll just kind of level it off that way. You know, I'm not gonna build it up 1.5 foot here or whatever it would take to level it. I'm just gonna reduce the acuity of the slope there, and this will be all garden. So all the water from the church, all the water that we don't get on the other side from the eaves troughs, comes here into their churchyard or whatever, and they have no parking. So they end up parking on the grass here. It's kind of it should be a driveway, but I'm glad it's not paved or gravel or anything. But it doesn't stand up to traffic, right? All that, you see that, all that water. Probably not getting anything from us because we're heavily chipped, but all this comes down, and you can see a very thin channel there. Now, whether it's been dug, I imagine it has, or it's by just people walking or whatever reason. The idea is to get rid of the water out of that area, and it extends here. You can't see it, but there's a little dip here. Whether it's, like I said, whether it's naturally occurring or ran out by erosion, or whether they dug it to try and get it to drain away. So they brought it through the driving gate. It looks like 2 of them there. And it just kind of sloughs off here, and then it's like out of sight, out of mind. Like, just get it 20 feet away from where you don't want it, and they don't care. So, but it creates a problem here. It's a big sloppy mess right here. So we do have access to the shed. That's where I'm going to keep my grain. So I need a little pathway from this man gate. So I'm going to just come across 6 feet, maybe 2 feet on the other side of the gate, 6 feet on this side of the gate, dig it all out. It's some of the best soil on the whole property right here against this fence. I planted some currants there. These old trees have been dropping their leaves, and they've been catching extra leaves. This is some of the best soil on the entire property. And along that fence, the leaves built up, and it's just beautiful soil there. So we'll dig that out, use that somewhere. Probably somewhere else. Right now, what I'm digging out of here, I just put over there to stop that problem or change that landscape. So I'll just come straight out of that with a pathway, right? Dig it down 6 inches. Yeah, so catch the water at the gate from all that water coming down with a big wide wood chip catch basin or whatever you want to call it, and then direct it down underneath this pathway that we're digging out. I just started a little bit there for demonstration purposes. So being in the middle of December, of course, digging is not advisable. But I dig. The chickens are right there, catching any worms that would die anyway. And then I fling it over there, and they level it out for me. They go over there. They're there, scratching away, getting everything they can, weeds, seeds, who knows what they're getting out of it. And then we'll just fill that whole thing with wood chips, maybe 6 or 8 inches deep. And then the water will come down. It will seep into here to feed this garden area, but mostly it'll land up here. This is about the lowest point here, and just kind of soak in rather than just kind of laying on top of the ground and being a big soggy mess. So that's French drain installation part 1.